This is 5 on your side at 5. Focused on you.
Today, riding to remember, cars and motorcycles made the trek from Festus to Truesdale, all to honor military members who made the ultimate sacrifice. Good evening, I'm Robert Townsend. Today's ride was arranged by Mark Schmitz, the father of fallen Marine Lance Corporal Jared Schmitz. Mercedes McKay caught up with the group in the middle of their journey in St. Charles.
Marine Corps Corporal Dagan Page.
Going name by name, Mark Schmitz listed out the 13 soldiers who were killed in 2021 during America's withdrawal from Afghanistan.
And our beloved.
One being his own son.
Hometown hero, Marine Lance Corporal Jared Schmitz.
That name is the whole reason hundreds gathered in Festus, coming together to honor those 13 with an inaugural memorial ride.
They always say you have to die twice to be forgotten, and that's to have your name never spoken again. We're going to see to it that these 13 names in particular are never forgotten.
Driving a total of 80 miles from Festus to St. Charles, ending in Truesdale. Hundreds of bikes and cars taking over 70 with one main mission.
To make sure that people recognize that men and women give their lives for this country every day. And sometimes it just feels really senseless in the way that it happens. But man, this freedom, like we always say, freedom's not free.
All the proceeds from Saturday's charity ride will go to the Schmitz family's nonprofit, the Freedom 13.
So our mission is to build retreat centers around the U.S., starting here locally in Missouri for the first camp.
Acting as an Airbnb, these retreat centers would be free to veterans and their families, serving as a way to disconnect and recharge.
I think it's going to be therapeutic for all, and it's something that these veterans definitely need.
Ensuring the 13 on this bus are never forgotten.
We do feel like we're carrying Jared's torch, like we were called to do something bigger than ourselves.
The miles serve as a reminder to honor all of those who didn't make it home.
It's an incredible sacrifice that most of us will never understand and most of us will never know.
Mercedes McKay, 5 on your side.
What a touching event. Mark hopes to make the charity ride an annual event. Now you can learn more about the Freedom 13 right now. Just head to KSDK.com and look under the As Seen on TV section. Well, right now we are working to learn more about a police pursuit that turned deadly. Today we know the names of 2 people killed when a South St. Louis County police chase ended in gunfire. Yesterday afternoon, Texas authorities alerted Missouri Highway Patrol that Ryan Phillips, a wanted man, was headed to the St. Louis area. Now, when the troopers located and attempted to stop his vehicle on I-44, Phillips sped off, eventually crashing on South Rock Hill. Missouri Highway Patrol says shots were fired between the suspect and a trooper. Phillips and a woman named Delicia Evans were found dead in the car. Evans was reported missing earlier yesterday morning. That's after a fire at her Texas home. Our Annie Krall is covering this story. Look for her report tonight at 10. Well, we're taking a live look outside. A beautiful fall day in the region, and tomorrow, listen to this, could be even cooler. Meteorologist Gary Frank has more on our weather impact forecast. Hi, Gary.
Yeah, good evening, Robert. As we continue to look outside, hardly a cloud in the sky. It was cooler this morning, and it really warmed up the afternoon, but the wind has been a factor as we look at many spots, including Market Street. The flag isn't straight across anymore, but we still have a north-northeast breeze at around 10 miles an hour. It is very dry outside. The dew point at 34. We only got to 74 today. That's 10 degrees below normal, both in the morning and the afternoon. Into this evening, it will get chilly very quickly. 60s in the city, low 60s even. It'll be in the 50s outside of the city. It's dry, but it will still be dry tomorrow. We'll start to increase our humidity a little bit to where we're not dropping quite as much overnight, but that's going to be a big story for us here overall. We'll talk about how that impacts us here and why we're going to continue to see dry conditions here over the next few days.
A question that would restore abortion rights in Missouri may no longer appear on the November ballot. Last night, a Cole County Circuit judge ruled that the proposed ballot language does not meet legal requirements to qualify for the November ballot. Missourians for Constitutional Freedom have already submitted an appeal, but Judge Christopher Limbaugh's ruling could upend years of efforts to end Missouri's abortion ban. The legal challenge at the center of this ruling was brought forward by anti-abortion activists and lawmakers. Now, the group behind the proposed abortion amendment reacted to the ruling, saying in part, quote, "The court's decision to block Amendment 3 from appearing on the ballot is a profound injustice to the initiative petition process and undermines the rights of the 380,000 Missourians who signed our petition." Thomas More Society, which is a Catholic public interest law firm, filed the lawsuit challenging the amendment. They described the decision as favorable and believe the question will be removed from the ballot. They also say, quote, "Thomas More Society's mission is to defend life, family, and freedom wherever they are threatened. Missouri's Amendment 3 threatens all three," end quote. Right now, an investigation inside a Southern Illinois state prison is causing a local lawmaker to speak out. Nearly 24 guards from the Menard Correctional Center have already fallen ill and taken to area hospitals over the span of the last 2 weeks. Hazmat and health officials from the CDC and the Illinois Department of Public Health are trying to figure out exactly what's causing the phantom symptoms. Officers and at least one inmate have reported elevated heart rates, rashes, and headaches. So far, though, all of them have been treated and released. Now, Illinois State Senator Terry Bryant is a former corrections officer and joined our political editor, Mark Maxwell, on this week's episode of The Record. Here's a sneak peek of their conversation.
We know that prison guards and staff did locate what they're calling some form of synthetic marijuana last Saturday, but health officials have not yet, they tell us, they've not yet positively identified that as the link to some of these different symptoms. How hard is it, you worked in this capacity, how hard is it just to keep controlled substances out of prisons?
Well, it's difficult right now because they don't scan the mail going in. And I don't think scanning the mail is the end-all to beat-all. I mean, there's other things that have to be taken care of. For instance, just until a few years ago, you couldn't take your own kitchen utensils into the facility. So like a dish or a thermal mug was not allowed to go in because we saw in the early 90s that they caught multiple individuals taking drugs into the facility, like in the bottom of their thermal cup. So they'd have drugs and then they'd have some ice on top of it. So that all stopped. Recently, the present leadership, administration, and Department of Corrections has been allowing that. So there are multiple things that have to happen here. But Mark, I also want to go back to how many you said have gone to the hospital. To date, there's almost 36 who have gone to the hospital. And those include an EMT responder last Monday. So the ambulance personnel that responded also had some kind of exposure. There were multiple employees who are medical professionals at the facility who also were exposed. And so it's much larger than just it being officers.
Also on the record this week, the Democrat hoping to unseat Senator Josh Hawley defends his stances on the crisis at the border. Lucas Coons says he is the only candidate in the race for Senate that would fund a response to the U.S.-Mexico border. As the election nears, Coons reacts to claims he has changed his position on border response.
Is your position today that you would vote for continuing the construction of a border wall if it can with those other things you just mentioned?
Like I said, we need to secure the border. I'm the only person who's running for this office who's going to vote to secure the border, period. He's voted against funding for it 3 times already. He will not fund it. In fact, you talk about border wall, he voted against funding 55 miles of border wall that Donald Trump signed. The guy is a fraud. He doesn't want to talk about these issues in a debate because he knows he's going to get exposed on them, and that's why he's just doing false attack ads against me nonstop and hoping that convinces people instead.
Catch more of these stories Sunday night on The Record right after Sports Plus. The Biden administration is launching an investigation into whether the airlines regularly devalue your airline points, making it much harder to redeem them. Now, the Transportation Department says it's about protecting airline customers from unfair and deceptive practices. NBC's Tom Costello has more.
Part of our pre-boarding. If you've ever tried to use airline points to book your family vacation, you probably know the frustration. Booking a flight can cost far too many points, especially during vacation high season. And the airlines keep changing the rules after you've signed up for the program or the airline credit card.
And we're kind of at the mercy of whatever they choose to do or choose to change.
Now the Transportation Department wants answers from 4 airlines: United, American, Delta, and Southwest. The DOT demanding detailed information about their rewards programs, practices, and policies. In a letter to airline CEOs, Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg writes, DOT has authority to investigate and take action against airlines and ticket agents for unfair or deceptive practices and unfair methods of competition in air transportation or the sale of air transportation.
Unlike the dollars in our savings accounts, the value of points and miles is completely up to the companies that issue them.
The DOT says its probe will focus on airlines that devalue earned reward points, the true hidden value of rewards, extra fees to maintain or redeem rewards, and whether programs actually reduce competition and choice. Booking trips with points can be an ordeal, with airlines restricting their use based on flight availability, route, and fare type. One survey of travel rewards programs found nearly a third of consumers felt it's difficult or complex to earn or redeem points. Last year, Delta faced immediate passenger backlash after changing its SkyMiles program, then reversed course. The airline industry says millions of Americans use loyalty programs, and airlines are transparent about the programs. Southwest says its Rapid Rewards points never expire, regardless of how they're earned, while Delta says providing a meaningful rewards experience is the top priority within Delta. But passenger Lauren Randall says it often feels like bait and switch.
I'm not getting any benefit out of it.
That was Tom Costello reporting. Airlines now have 90 days to provide all documents related to the probe as the investigation continues. Well, if you're working on a project involving a fresh coat of paint in or around your home, the expert testers at Consumer Reports have you covered. Mike Bush has more on the brands that can give you the bang for your buck.
If you've painted anything, you know that the prep work is often the hardest and most annoying part. The same can be said for Consumer Reports paint testing.
The amount of prep work that goes into it is a lot. We actually have to prep all the paint boards. We have to cut them to size, and then we have to mark them off.
When the samples are ready, testers run exterior paints through a mildew resistance test. And of course, a weathering test to see how well paint stands up to the elements after years of exposure. These samples are left on CR's roof for 3 years, which simulates 9 years on a home. They're tilted south to amplify the sun's effects, and every year inspected for cracking, dirt collecting, and fading. If you're planning an outdoor paint project, CR recommends Behr's Ultra Exterior or this Clark & Kensington exterior paint. For staining, this top-rated Behr resists fading, cracking, dirt, and mildew. Plus, it holds up even after 3 years in CR's weathering tests. For interior paints, testers look at how well each one can cover and resist oil and water-based stains. And as any DIY painter knows, covering a darker color can be very difficult. So these tests show how easy or hard that is with any given paint.
Once it dries, we compare how well it hides the black to the white.
Pro tip for all paints and stains, don't shop by brand name alone.
I would say that's not a good idea because the same brand can have different formulas and they can vary per test on how well they do.
If you're looking to freshen up a room inside your home, this Behr Marquee, available at Home Depot, provides excellent coverage and stain resistance. The same goes for this HGTV home by Sherwin-Williams, available at Lowe's. Now all you have to do is pick a color.
Now, if you're tackling a bigger job that involves more than 3 gallons of paint, CR says you may want to consider a paint sprayer. A handheld sprayer can also come in handy for projects with hard to reach angles and, of course, those nooks and crannies like on furniture or staircases. Well, today was definitely a beautiful day to be outside painting or just basically do anything else. Meteorologist Gary Frank joining us now. Gary, it was a much cooler morning today. The big question on everybody's minds is, will those fall temperatures stick around?
Yeah, we've got temps that are going to stick around in the low 70s here as we look ahead. And, you know, for the most part, it's nice and cool here for the short term. Dry conditions here, and as we look ahead, big picture shows we've got even cooler air behind that. That's what's really going to settle in here in the overnight hours, in the low to mid 70s here in the middle, and then you see that warm air off to the southwest. That's what we're kind of in between right now. And that breeze is indicative here as we have gusts upwards of 20 miles an hour. So you felt those breezes today. They've been on the cooler side. You felt it here. And overnight, this is the big story for us. It is going to be downright chilly, feeling a lot like fall outside. Mid to upper 40s in the city, outside of the city, low 40s. It would not surprise me to see a few numbers in the upper 30s in some cases. It's going to be very chilly, especially in some of those valleys. Now, that's our last really cool morning for a while. For tomorrow, though, we still continue to transition our breeze, but it's still temps in the mid 70s. Not a cloud in the sky once again. Now, the story for us, which is kind of an interesting thing because we've been talking about lack of rain, as we're now on day 7 in this entire month as we continue to start off dry every single day this month. That will pretty much be the trend over the next few days. I always kind of said I think we need one of these tropical systems to work its way in and give us an opportunity the way that things are, and this is what we're going to be looking at here. Now, this tropical system that's kind of settling in the Gulf, you'll notice where some of the ensembles, these are a bunch of computer models, they look at the track of the center of this storm and where it could go, and right now this is days away. This is not Monday. It means it's not going to rain Monday. It's not going to rain Tuesday. It's not going to rain Wednesday. You guessed it. It's not going to rain Thursday either. But by the time this comes to the north, notice how this kind of works its way closer to Memphis and they wiggle around. And I think at this current track, it will probably work its way a little further east of us. However, this is our best shot for rain. You'll bring this thing in here, and as it does kind of fizzle out and lose its strength, it may produce some at least heavy rain in a few spots to the south. I'll be interested to see how this goes. This is so far out still, and you know how these things go, but that's our best bet right now. So there may be some areas in the Metro East that get rain and areas in Missouri that do not. We'll look at it because it's something that we're monitoring here, but the next few days, that's our best chance because it's still 76 tomorrow. It's 83. We're in the 80s. Like I said, it's dry all the way through Friday, and that's why I think we're at least going to get clouds and a few showers in the 70s pretty quickly as a result of that, as showers may linger on Saturday. So we're hopeful for that rain by next weekend.
Gary, thanks. It's been 2 years since the rollout of the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. Now, officials say many others don't know this help is out there. So there's a new tradition starting this weekend. In today's Health Minute, Mandy Gaither has more on the first ever 988 day.
What's going on?
In the 2 years since the 988 Lifeline switched to an easier to remember 3-digit number, officials say more than 10 million texts, calls, and chats have been answered.
That's quite a high number that lets us know that there are people that are in need of this service.
Monica Johnson, director of the 988 Crisis Coordinating Office, says many don't know they can dial 3 numbers to get one-on-one mental health help 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Calls are answered by counselors and more than 200 crisis contact centers across the U.S.
Whether that's a mental health crisis, people experiencing depression, anxiety, people having concerns about substance misuse, and et cetera. So it's for any type of crisis.
That's why Sunday, September 8th, or 9/8, has become 988 Day to raise awareness for the Lifeline, which expanded last year to include services for Spanish speakers, LGBTQI+ youth and young adults, and for people who are deaf or hard of hearing, video phone contacts in American Sign Language. Veterans, service members, and their families can also call 988 and press option 1 for support geared specifically to them.
We want people to know that this exists. We know that it saved lives, and we want people to just spread the word.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Well, today's Schlafly Beers Art Outside Festival returned. The event is highlighting, get this, more than 60 artists and musicians throughout the weekend. And this year you can take part in live glass blowing, demos, tarot card readings, and lots of henna tattooing, we're told. Now, a portion of Schlafly's beer sales will go to the Artists First organization. It continues from 9 tonight until 11 and 4 tomorrow. The 5+ Live Bus made an appearance this morning at Baldwin. Tons of trucks. It was held in the Target parking lot. Hundreds of kids you see showing up for this event to get close and personal with vehicles like a television news live truck. There was also a helicopter and lots of other trucks and tractors on display. And if you missed any of those details, here's a recap from some aspiring reporters from the back of the 5+ Live Bus.
Breaking news from Target. What's your job at reporting? Bunch of buses are around in the Target parking lot. There's police and helicopters. Yeah. This is how.
Cute kids. That free event went from 10 until noon. The first hour is a siren-free quiet hour.
I like quiet.
That's
Yeah,
good.
I do like quiet.
Hey, those kids are after our jobs, huh?
Yeah, I like quiet.
Yeah, very nice, quiet evening. And speaking of quiet, temps in the 70s here. I'll tell you what, tomorrow morning is going to be chilly. I opened the windows last night, felt pretty nice because it's going to be hot again. But I at least was able to use the rain icon, and I haven't been able to do that for a while, Robert. So I was pretty excited about that. And I'm hopeful that somebody in the area gets rain. We'll see if we can get that tropical system to nudge its way a little further off to the west. We'll see how that goes, and we'll update you at 10.
You know, I got to tell you, I'm loving these 7-degree temperatures.
That's pretty nice.
Yeah, stick around.